Great. We're already we're already live. We can begin to record. I'll hit this button. Uh, where should I record it to?
I record.
Can you record it, please, sister? Ah, thank you. Well, hi everyone. We have an update, and of course, so much has transpired once again since Sister Nya's last update. With the children, and we've been incredibly busy, uh for the most part. I will say from even the time that we wake up till we go to bed. And uh, I am also spending a lot of time with this, uh, because it's not just an isolated case what is occurring, and it is very important worldwide that we continue what we're doing at uniting all of the moms and dads. But I will also say that I anticipate shortly that there should be some more, let's say, bigger organizational support to come in here. And what we're about to share today is our observations. Everything that we say is in our opinion, but it's also truthful in our opinion, meaning that, to keep this simple, is that, again, anything we are allowed our opinion. We are allowed to make accusations and allegations, whereas we are saying this is in our opinion, what we feel and what we believe, because it's very important for all to know in your proceedings, you're allowed to have your beliefs. And part of that beliefs that you have is if you believe a, a government is acting legally, you're allowed to say this. That is your opinion. And this is important with your freedom of beliefs worldwide. So do not refrain from speaking out publicly. And we mentioned this before. You are allowed your opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and do not let your speech be suppressed. So I believe what we'll do here, and what we're seeing is we're gathering and compiling a lot of evidence. And yes, this is coming out of Austria, but it's also worldwide, as we know, on different degrees. But what we are doing with this, we are sharing it worldwide to assist others, as well, to assist to get the children back where they need to be with Sister Nya. But in the event of doing this in our procedure, what we're doing, it may be unprecedented and perhaps even controversial. However, what we are doing is applying just laws, and there is a difference. And this is absolute law. It's the basis of the rule of law, the principles of law. And having said this, any nation worldwide that does not uphold these serious, important rights of the individuals is actually acting unlawful. And we don't need to prove that. It is the state of how things are. Anytime if you have impartiality or partiality, excuse me, within a legal system, which is bias, and if you don't have accountability, that is not a lawful system. It is actually, you could call it an illegal system because it condemns itself by its own conflicting laws. For example, it cannot have a constitution that says we fully support the freedom of speech, but then at the same time make stipulations and lengthy rules in their laws and their acts to take it from you, because that is a fraudulent act. And again, any law worldwide needs to be simple that the common lay person or layman or lay woman, if you will, can read it. Everyone worldwide is not to be a lawyer with a handbook. Well, bigger than that, you'd probably need a big truck to carry around all the book to see what the illegal system says you can do and what you can't. And that's absolutely preposterous. But with this, sister, yeah, I believe let's get into it. So perhaps 2 weeks ago, you were finally, they allowed you to see the children, um, but
Yes.
also we had mothers. I'll bring this up because you can elaborate on this. We also had Mother's Day that went by, a few days ago. And at this institution where the children are being kept, uh, they, to my knowledge and to our knowledge, they didn't celebrate Mother's Day for the children. And this is significant to acknowledge. Go ahead, sister.
No, they don't celebrate it. It's very interesting when I ask my daughter on the phone. She said she doesn't know. Only one of her friend was taken by her mother to celebrate Mother's Day. So interestingly, yesterday when I met her in person for 1 hour, I asked her again if they are celebrating it in their institution, in the center, and she said, yeah, there were a lot of children taken to meet their mothers. But also, couple of days ago, my children were so excited to give me the present for Mother's Day and to meet me, and we're talking about this, and I was also saying, oh yeah, well, I'm very happy, to receive whatever you got, and also your poem, I love that. And then something changed, on Sunday when I called them. They, normally, the last every time, normally, since I know them, since they were born, every after time, they came and, mommy, here's your Mother Day's present, and they wish me a very beautiful Mother's Day. Last year they decided to stay with I because it was very important for them, right? But this year it was weird, in the moment I speak about it, the whole thing's changed. They said nothing on Mother's Day. But also when I met them yesterday, they didn't bring anything to Mother's Day.
Hmm.
So what I'm trying here to say is, because every time when I speak with them, they listen to the whole speak, and also, if I say something which is not in alignment with them, they jump in. Or, I having the opinion that they look at them, or that they say something, to interrupt the call, or, what they are speaking. Um, why I'm saying this, because a couple of days ago, my son doesn't speak a lot. If he has something to say, he's speaking a lot. If not, no. So I normally don't force him. But what I know is that he loves to listen to my voice. So, and then I said to him, well, I know I don't force you to speak, um, do you like to listen to my voice? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, well, I know that. And that's for all fine, as long as you're here,
Uh,
I appreciate this. And then the next day, he said he want to talk with me anymore. So every time if I say something which I like, or which which is what make me happy, something changed, which which is in my opinion, also an indicator that they manipulate or influence it, because
but
there's
before, if I
yes.
may, if I may, at this point, just for clarity, before we proceed, Sister Nya, to your knowledge, did they actually inform or celebrate within the institution a Mother's Day? Did they have anything there in commemoration for Mother's Day?
No. Aurora said no.
All right. So, yeah. So, what it was the children, perhaps on their own accord, were informed by their moms or their dads that Mother's Day was coming. So then the children perhaps prepared something. What I'm looking at here is with this, it appears also not to be the appreciation of the mother, and also perhaps on Father's Day there will not be any Father's Day there in the institution for the children as well. So what you're looking at is a disassociation um, of the parents from the child, which is again the institution taking over control of the children and interrupting that important duty of care, in this case between the mother and the child. So what they are doing is taking away the power, your power, and they are giving it to the supervisor there to control the children, and we're seeing the results of this. So this is psychological indoctrination, conditioning, and this is what we're going to enter more in here, and this is part of psychological torture as well, on different levels. It's not just torture, what you would think of someone being tied up and hit. And with this is psychological torture that we are also seeing. It is intentional to continue to dissuade and burden the individuals into separation. And in this case, it is the intention, what we are seeing of that child institution and those psychological ones there, to begin to pursue this, to separate the child from the mother's dependence, but also to, I'm looking for the right words, that's why I'm going around in a little loop here. Um, but I should stop, and please continue on that, Sister Nya. And, let's go back, if we will, to you were finally, they allowed you to see the children, and you got some pictures and a video of that day. Do you wish to share that
Yes,
now?
from the first day. Just give me a second.
In this video, when Femke and I watched it, we both had tears in our eyes. We could feel the great love from Akua, between Akua and Sister Nya. And, you could see how he holds right on. And,
Yes,
this is not right, what is occurring, with this. They say that they're manipulating things, trying to say that Nya is an unfit or unstable mother, when
yes,
it's an absolute lie. What began with all of this, and the legal system took the lie and amplified it further. Um, but having said this, we're finding more and more are involved, that again, it's showing a conspiracy and an actual underlying intent.
yes. So, so I'm showing the video now. Just give me a second. Let's hear.
What? It comes.
Do you see it? So I can start it.
Yes, it's up, so you can start it.
So that was one of the video from the first time I met them again. That is also a picture um, where I saw them again. We hugged very closely.
Yeah.
And
So the children are held in there against their will, against their consent, and against Nya's consent. And with this is causing this overall stress, which is psychological torture. We'll get into later. Go ahead, sister.
yes, um, before I will show the second video, it's very good, also to go more deeper into the clinical, psychological clinical test they have done in in the center, because it also clarifies a lot, meaning like again you can see they are biased, meaning, and also not objective, but also from my opinion not competent. Why I'm saying this, again, for example, Aurora is Aurora is very intelligent. Everyone who knows her is saying she's very intelligent. She knows a lot of things, and she's very powerful. So she mentioned, for
Powerful in
example,
what way?
what?
Powerful in which ways?
She's powerful in that way that
Her
she's
courage and strength.
yes, but also since they were staying with me for a year without being with their father, um for me, for I, holding space or being a guardian of children also means, to empower them, meaning like, also to teach them what I feel would be very beneficial for every parent, to teach your child that they are not responsible for anyone's emotion, meaning like to empower them to speak their truth, also if it's upsetting you or if it's not in alignment with you. By teaching them this, you allow them to open up and to go more into their power. So yes, so so
Freedom of
that,
expression.
yes, that's what I mean with powerful, meaning like, for example, she had back then, she had children who are bullying her. So the thing is, I asked her if I should step up, and help her, or to talk with, to go into school, or to talk with the parents. And she said no, she wants to handle it by her own. But I think I have also talked with one of the mothers, to clarify it. And what she did was, first she always said, stop it, don't, I don't like it, don't do it. And then at a specific point, because they never stopped it again, she turned the table, and started to annoy them. So, that's the way how children do, and how they learn, to handle the situation,
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but I just said to her, don't harm anyone, but you are allowed to self-defense in order, if someone is hurting you, right?
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
so she's outspoken. She was outspoken. She was an extrovert to the degree of expressing her feelings and her truth, which secures her boundaries as she grows very rapidly and understanding the effects of that, which is very important. And what I have witnessed here, just in the recent past, because of the psychological stress and pressure and I will say abuse of authority in the center by those that are supposedly watching the children in there. I see Aurora has become reticent, and one of the reasons is because she has gone into a survival mode. So she has begun introversion, which is an introvert, where she is not allowed to freely express herself in freedom. So she has more so gone into a fear protection mode and survival mode to also take care of her little brother. So it's very interesting to watch how the psychological programming in there on the children, how it is the attempts to disempower them, to take away their child ingenuity and expansion of creativity, to conform them to a sadistic beast society, what we have here today, to get them to conform with authority, if you will, but authority that is a system that actually inflicts great harm on humanity worldwide. So it's the psychological programming and conditioning that I am witnessing as well.
Yes. So when the bullying stopped, what she did was she was protecting others. So she stepped up for other children who were bullied and were defending them, and that's she was always like this since she is a baby. So she's very powerful. So the thing is, what I'm trying to say here, she's very powerful. She knows what she wants. And, the other mother shared with I when she talked with her children and she asked them, why are you bullying her? Because she's such a nice girl. And they said, yeah, it's because she is so arrogant. And she asked, how did you get that word? How do you know that word? And they said, well, I can't remember what they said, but the thing is, Aurora is a very extroverted child. She's very happy. She enjoys herself. She enjoys butterflies. She enjoys flowers. So that's who she is. So she's like that. But at that point, because she's I would say a highly divine one, um, and has a high frequency, there could be a lot of ones starting to project things onto her. And everyone who knows this, that happens sometimes. So to go back to that psychological clinical study, she also knows, she's always speaking out loud, meaning like if we have something set up, like an agreement with each other and it didn't work out, so the remedy, what we are doing is to discuss it, because everything is flexible, and so we are trying to find another solution. So that's how we are doing things here. And she brought up in a psychological clinical study that she don't like school, and she's not in alignment with it, that she has to ask to go to toilet because that's something natural. But also, her opinion is that the balance between free time and school time is not fair for her. And she loves to do her homework on the bed rather than on the table, which is also fine, she's a child. But they bring it up in that way, that she's not, but also they brought up that she's not holding on to agreement, meaning like they ask her to not throw the ball when they had a dog therapy, and she looked at them and she was like, okay, she's not in alignment with it, and then she's kept on playing with the ball, right? But from my opinion, it's totally normal, as a child, just to play and to see and, just to do whatever it feels right, because she didn't felt in alignment with that. The thing is also, that, for example, in that psychological clinical study, um, they never brought something up, about me and the connection with the children, meaning like they called me a lot. They have almost the whole stuff from their home at the children place, that they are calling me often, that they mentioned at the beginning very often that they want to go home, that they want to see mother, that they want to call mother. Okay, with calling mother, I don't know, but they requested to see I. So what they did was, they asked me for a picture and they put it onto a big teddy bear so they can cuddle the teddy bear. And none of this was mentioned, in the report. the only thing that they have reported was, at the beginning, they don't want to call with the father, but later on they came, from their own accord to call him. So, and I was like, that's weird, because I remember back then later on, Aurora mentioned, she wanted to call me and is not allowed to. So what is happening here? But also they never said anything about the stuff I brought, or, with the teddy bear. They only said once that Aurora requested, some sweets by her father, and he brought it to them, and she was saying thank you. So where is the objective thing here, to make a clinical study about both parents? As you can clearly
Well,
see, that is bias again, right? And they also put up that my connection with Akua is not good, meaning like, the father has a better connection, because when he's talking with Akua, he's talking, in a child way and asking him about things, and that I'm very strict with Akua, which is also not true. You can see the bound between us. The thing is, I can also feel his pain, because we had
well,
such a deep bound. And but also, they mentioned that Aurora is too far for her age, and that's yeah, because they want to make
well,
something which is very great negative.
well, here, yeah, here's what's going on from their level of consciousness. So they are psychologically conditioning in their attempt to restore what they perceive as a healthy relationship with the children with their father. But the thing is that they do not know, because they would not listen to all of your testimony, that that relationship was not a healthy relationship. And it's why that you and the children had to leave to secure this, for the children. So what they're attempting to do is to take you out of the picture so that the children no longer had a choice with you, while they were attempting to restore a relationship that cannot be there. And the reason it could not be there is because the children did not want it. And every time they visited the dad in the past, several years ago, they really did not want to go to see the dad. So part of what has been transpiring, the reason why the children didn't see the dad, and why Sister Nya did not allow them to. I won't use the word allow, because Sister Nya asked the children, "Do you want to see your dad in the past?" And they said no, no, they did not. So she went with their wishes. But what you're seeing in the institution here is that falsely and psychologically, they're attempting to condition and force the children into a relationship. So they are coercing that, but also they are forcing, attempting to force the children into obedience by the supervisors and what have you there. And they've already begun, also as part of what we're seeing with psychological conditioning and experimentation. They are also rewarding, I believe, Aurora with money if she makes her bed and these sort of things. But the underlying intent of this is to gain favoritism by the supervisor so that they will obey, so that the supervisor can control them, taking away their independence, if you will. And again, this is conformity, and it's a psychological experimentation. And very quickly, if anyone again wants to look at it, the Little Danes experiment in Denmark, where they took from Greenland these girls, most of them, these children, took them from their families. A priest was involved with this at selecting young girls, and they couldn't find enough that fit the qualifications. But the priest just in Greenland grabbed so many of the girls and sent them anyway so they could fill the quota. I think it was 12 that the Danish government wanted for the experiment. But nevertheless, again, we had mentioned this before, and I don't wish to reiterate so many things. The facts and the truth are is that these human experiments and child experimentation psychologically is ongoing, and it's really not about uh, allowing a family, if it's supposed to come back together, it's forcing and creating stress, as you can see. And this is becoming psychologically more evident as we proceed forward. And when we see this, because there is so much intent, it also exposes the underlying intent to perpetrate psychological torture and stress upon the individuals involved, especially the children. So we had the first, yeah, where do you wish to go from here, sister? And yeah, you had some more pictures or what have you?
Yes, I just want to add also, to add um why I'm saying that I don't feel that they are competent enough to raise children. There's an example that they have asked me in the questionnaire, if Akua got angry, if he can regulate himself. And I said, yes, in his time. But also, sometimes it didn't take long, right? And in a clinical psychological evaluation, they put up that Akua can't regulate themselves. He got very angry and upset and he's not stopping. And I have to put this up because it's also connected, with yesterday. But the thing is, they then said that's completely true and in alignment with what the father said. The thing is, what I want to point out is that everyone, the most of the parents knows if a child throws a tantrum, there's a reason for it. It feels unseen or unheard, and there's something that it cannot explain or speak about. So I would say, as an example, he's very sensitive, he's very calm and kind, meaning like if someone is stepping on your feet 10 times, at the 10th time, most of them, would somehow, explode, especially, if he's like this. So the thing what I want to say is, often when we had something, um, I just knew normally what's going on, right? And I just looked at him and I asked, okay, is that the reason, and I just put that reason up. And he looked at me and he was just happy. He hugged me and then it was gone, right? Or sometimes I just hug him and I said, oh, you're frustrated, right? It doesn't work out the way you want, right? And he said, yes. And, it's it's regulated, it's just there is nothing, so, but by them putting the up, to look, to show bias again, to let me look bad or something, I don't know, or what have you. But it just proves that they are not competent to raise children, because that's a normal behavior mostly, especially if you don't ask them, right? So I just wanted to bring that up because I feel it is very important to do, but also, again, to go back into the bias thing, meaning like, my daughter brought up, that I said, we don't have much money, which is true. And I think she said sometimes, that I'm driving a expensive car, which is a second-hand car, but it, for us it's expensive because we don't have that money, right? And she also mentioned that her father often says he don't have money. So, and then she wrote something there and she said, oh, that's interesting. Aurora is saying, she don't have money, but in the same time, she's driving an expensive car. So what does this has to do in a clinical evaluation? But in the same moment, she wrote nothing about the father. The father has a tiny house. He has he's living in a flat. He has free kind of things to drive. I don't know, a squad or a motorbike, and the car. and she said nothing about this, right? So I'm just pointing out the bias thing here again.
But
And
also,
yes.
just to share quickly with the vehicle, you were making a good income several years ago and you had bought the vehicle then. So again, what relevance does it have now? You had paid for the vehicle a long time ago. You are the owner of it. It's just at this time you don't have any money, but you still have your car, and they even attempted to take that from you.
Oh,
And
yes.
but well, maybe we'll just cover that quickly. We're jumping all over the place.
Yes.
And Sister Nya and I had this conversation this morning again. I'd known about it before, but to get further clarity on it, um, let me just simply say that it is what we call and what I call extortion. And it's extortion where the court approved an application for the ex to get Nya to pay a $500 penalty or take her car. Uh, yeah, make a lien or just take her car, which is actually ridiculous, but it's important because it was attempts to coerce and to force her into submitting and obeying something that was illegal. And what the thing was illegal is the court case where she was denied due process, which actually with any impartial judge should have known that the whole thing was illegal. And just and what I'll just add one more thing. So Sister Nya has informed all of the levels of the Justice Department and governments in Austria that an unlawful, illegal thing occurred. Yet they did not. There's been numerous cease and desist orders sent out stating what occurred, the statement of incontestable facts that they could have checked in the blink of an eye to substantiate what Sister Nya was saying, and they could have released the children immediately. However, that is not the case yet after perhaps about a month. So, what this is also showing by the government of Austria and its different levels that there is an underlying intent here where the judge actually performed a serious breach of her duty with misconduct, and no one from the higher legal position recognized this wrong, or if they did recognize it, there is no excuse for them to ignore it. So this has also incriminated all levels of government for being an accomplice to this illegal act. Once again, this unlawful act. And even to go as far as attempting to burden Sister Nya further by taking the vehicle from her. You know, it's it's absolutely preposterous, but you have a court granting that $500 penalty and sending someone from the court to seize her car, which with the children you want to go get groceries and do things, but you see that the underlying intent was that devious to also try to take her car to make her look like less of a provider for the children. And this is the devious intent, but you also have a court supporting this. If I was a judge in a court and I was in these shoes and someone brought me an application take her car from her, the first thing I would say is no, that's absolutely wrong. It's preposterous. If she's in the has the children in her care, and if she needs a car to go somewhere for whatever, that is not it could endanger the children. It makes it more difficult to provide the duty of care and the sustenance. So any reasonable judge would just say, no, that is wrong. She's allowed to have her vehicle. It's written more or less in her right to life, liberty, and sustenance, what is in the Constitution. And no, we cannot violate her rights. That's what any reasonable judge would have said. Yet in this case, no, get a bailiff, a court bailiff to go and attempt to seize her car, which is, it shows more intent. Go ahead.
Yes, I think there maybe was another lawyer involved into this. So the reason why they wanted to took me is to coerce me to go into the court, which is a family court, right? And it's different to a criminal court. I didn't harm anyone, right? So, but also, to limit my to restrict me to travel or to drive around with the children, but also to put more pressure and onto me, and more fear and more stress, by coming every day, not every day, but coming all the time, and getting the car and sizing it. I think I once also met him and I looked at him and he said, yeah, you know, we have sized your car. And I looked at him and I said, no, you don't size my car. It's my car. And then I said, because I know from their laws, and I said, that, in Austria, we would say it's oversizing, meaning
Seize,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Don't seize the car.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's, I bought it a couple of years ago before I started going to court where a lot of money were paid, for the lawyer. And, it was some kind of 7,700 euro. And I said to him, for 600 euros, you cannot size that car, and also I need that, and then he wanted to give me a letter, and I said, I don't accept that, you know, I don't accept that. And then later, he just went by and he was like, yeah, and you will see, he tried to intimidate me and he said, you will see how we will size your car. The thing is, later on, when I finally received the court protocol, I think couple 1 week or something ago, no, 2 weeks ago, I then also received the letter that, they have come on the 18th of March, to check my car, how much it is worth, right? And it was 3 days before they took the children, right? So as you can clearly see, they used the car, also to get the children, because it's everything connected, because they want to force me into court, they want to coerce me into court, they want to block me to travel or to visit my parents and what have you, to size my car, to coerce me, to
Um,
there.
yeah. Very
So
importantly, yeah. So they tried to force you and coerce you by taking your car, but with the money from the car, if you would have paid, where would that money go to
to the
if
government,
you would have paid the penalty?
it goes back to the Republic of Austria, to the
The
state itself.
government. Yeah,
Yes, to the
yeah. So the
government.
government needed that money. No, they didn't. Yeah. But I needed just to share, yeah,
The thing is with
how
the family,
it's blatant extortion.
yes, the thing with the family court is also, that is not, you don't have to pay it in Austria, meaning like it's paid by the government, so it goes back. Yeah, it's paid by the government. But the thing is, family court is also different. Normally they can't coerce you because you are not a criminal, right? But I also have to say later I just found out that he also filed for a um, coercive punishment by the criminal department to force me into court, So that's a law of the that's a criminal law he have applied to, and the court has yeah has confirmed it. So that is also the reason why they were looking for by the criminal department, and they did some investigation, but they did it because of right, for me to get into court. But what they did was they used that to take away the children. So I don't know, because the whole thing, when you're looking at it's distortion. How they set everything up, how they used everything together. It's completely a conspiracy, from my opinion, right? Because you can see all the pieces coming together, because all those things I didn't know. But also I remember back then that I think he maybe have, the ex have threatened me, because I think I had that commitment with him that he's not coercing the children, with what they're eating and what have you. I can't remember. And because of this, I made an agreement with him that he can make a passport. But for some reason, I didn't felt good with it. And then when I talked with the children, they said that he forced them again. And I said, yeah, well, you didn't hold on to that agreement, so I'm revoking my consent for you to do the passport. But what I also further did was I didn't send him a copy of my passport, because for divine reason I have changed my passport after we separated, so he had a copy of my old passport. But for some reason he got that passport. I don't know how he'd get that, because you have to be, I don't know what he does. But the thing is, I had that consent, in a short message, but also didn't give him, my passport copy. But then, I think back then he also threatened me, and he said, if I don't comply to this or that, you will have consequences out of it. And I just saw that message and I was like, oh, that's interesting. It was somehow around the court appointment, and he didn't mention anything. So you can clearly also see that he used that I didn't went into court, but also threatening me more. And also he said, yeah, and everyone would see who you are, because everyone is annoyed about you and everyone will see about you, right? So the thing is, I was not there in court. I don't know what he talked with them, but you can clearly also see that everything shifted, as he wished. I'm just pointing that out because there's a whole load of
Well, what I'd say,
points.
no, he was correct that everyone would see you and know you, and they are through our publicity. They're seeing the truth and the knowing. And this is why all the departments and all of those involved are in great fear. The director of Carinthia, feeling threatened, but also sending you threatening emails, if you will, with the last one that you received,
Oh,
which is an attempt to intimidate you further into obeying their court that has already denied you due process with there has been no remedy, no compensatory, no remuneration by this wrongdoing. They just continue to attempt to enforce the court, the legal system upon her, when actually the legal system is null and void because of what it did. It had reasonable time to apply the immediate remedy of returning the children, because everything that occurred with the court process where Nya was denied due process, this nullified and voided everything afterwards. And everything had to be in a just law, had to be restored to the way it was prior to the illegal act. And the illegal act was denying her due process, is one important one. But at that time, the children were in Nya's care and custody. So the just thing by the justice system of the Republic of Austria was to restore everything to the way it was prior to that infraction that occurred with the misconduct of the judge and others involved.
I have to say it was the leader of the child welfare department, but yes, he's in contact with the leader of Carinthia. He was often threatening me. That's also the reason why I didn't went to the child welfare anymore, because he was threatening me and um, um,
Well, I believe in all day there's a lot of money involved here as well as we said in our other video, what these ones are receiving, and it's quite possible they're receiving cash fringe benefit on the side because they're making a business out of this rather than actually caring for the children, as we're showing. Like, what is this? No Mother's Day celebrated for the children, and all of the psychological experimentation. Uh, for I remain, there's something much deeper and sinister that is going on here, and this is why they are feeling very threatened. They're not cooperating with the rule of law, the basics of all law. They continue to violate it. And these ones in their position, it is no excuse for them to be ignorant of the simple basics of law. So, where there is no excuse, it also implies or substantiates an underlying intent and conspiracy. So, again, we can put this all together, but go, Sister. Yeah.
I just want to add that the ex has applied or filed, for that criminal punishment, which is in fact for criminals, meaning like he have again endangered the children, meaning like in that law, if the one is not applying to it, you can read that they are allowed by their laws to apply violence, meaning like if I wouldn't had reacted back then the way I did, they could have used violence against me and my children. And excuse me, it's a criminal punishment, right? So
Well,
normally if someone does something and harming others, they would force him, to go into court. But I'm just a mother protecting my children to not cause more harm and stress to them, right? And they applied something like this, and the judge allowed it. But furthermore, I went to the ombudswoman, which is normally helping if some kind of public institution is not holding to the laws. But that woman also, again, she was also conspiring because she lied and she said something that I never said in the application to show myself as a liar so they can
manipulated
use
the
it
truth.
against me, showing that everything I'm saying is a lie, right? So, and then the judge applied for another evaluation, which we know who she is, right? So I'm just saying that because I didn't know everything because it's so
But with
extensive,
the
back then.
Well, it is so extensive, and what we're seeing is that justice will be applied on an individual level as well, with the psychological evaluator, the ombudsman woman, I believe in this case, the director of child welfare, just to name a few, but also the employees and also the ones that are conducting the psychological experiments with the children, but also with Sister Nya. It's so in the institution, not only are they conducting pseudoscience, the psychological experimentation on the children, they are also doing it upon Nya, and they are doing this in, let's say, not so much subliminal means. It's becoming more obvious as we go forward. And again, to take such measures to target a beautiful, um, loving mother, and to separate these children to go through these extents to violate even the legal system of Austria itself. There is something else very substantially criminal and sadistic and sinister involved with this.
Yes, I I always, a lot of people and witnesses which don't want to be named, which I totally understand. Um, were with me, and everyone was like, "Oh no, the system is not like that. You can't do that. You cannot record it." And I said, "Yes, but I just informed you that I do because there's a reason for it." And everyone who comes with me and afterwards, they were like, "It's good that you have recorded it." Everything was shaken to their core, to see how corrupt it is, from my opinion, right? And how they don't apply to the laws, and also not to the human rights, and not to the constitution itself. But also, I often think about, that I, I clearly can't understand, because we know not everyone is corrupt, right? There are still some good ones. We believe that. But the thing is, how could someone lies, lie, or to hide information, to hide, to really harm me and the children, when they clearly see how strong our connection is, right? So that is something that is occurring very often for other mothers as well, meaning like the moment they separate them from the child, they do everything possible to break the mother bond. But also, furthermore, if they are siblings, they start to split the siblings. What they are now doing with Akua and Aurora, because Aurora has helped Akua often, to regulate himself, right? So, as an example, what I also want to bring up is what every time when we talk on phone, I have to say the human rights is, and it's also, I think it's also in the constitution, that you have the right for private life and for family life. You have, that's in the constitution, that's also a human right. But also, if you are imprisoned, you're also allowed to talk, without someone listening. I'm not, there's always someone listening very clearly and precise what I'm saying. If it's not in alignment, they step up and, you can't say that, or, they, because they know every time when they say something to me, I'm applying the higher knowledge to it. For example, I brought Akua, a spaceship, a legal spaceship, and I didn't saw, that there are something like laser on it. I didn't saw that, honestly. And he said he's not allowed to have that. And I said, why? And they said he's not allowed to have anything with war. And I said, oh, I didn't know that. I just bought it because it's a spaceship, and that's cool. And I said, well, if you fly around and there's an asteroid, you need that laser, because in case you will, go into that. And I explained him about the difference, about intention. Like if you have a knife to peel a apple, it's a good thing. But you can also use it intentionally to harm someone. That's a bad thing, right? So because of this, they stopped, to interfere somehow. And I saw they somehow started, to interfere with the children. Meaning like the last time I talked to Aurora, and I explained to her about something with the chlorine, that they have used it in war. And then Aurora said, oh, you can't say that. And I said, why? And she said, yeah, the supervisor is rolling her eyes, and she will soon block you from talking. And I said, why? And she said, because you are talking about war. And I said, yes, but that happened. That's the truth. So as you can see here, it has to go how they want to indoctrinate the children, right? So whatever I'm saying, or whatever I'm explaining, or they're making, they're making fun of it, what I'm saying. Or every time when I'm talking
And
with them afterwards, they're talking with them, to put their opinion about it,
well, there was a
what I
huge,
have to
I
say.
just wish to add this. There was a huge explosion. I forget what country. Um, at a chlorine chemical plant, and everyone was told to keep indoors. I think 180,000. They could smell the chlorine a bit,
Oh,
but
yes, I
it's
saw that.
toxic. Yeah, yeah. So with the supervisor saying that that is foolish, no, again, it is not. It's very important. Yeah, for the children to be informed on this. Don't be around the smell of chlorine. It's toxic. They need to learn the substances that are toxic, and chlorine is definitely one of them. Um, do
So
you wish? Go ahead.
so what I wanted to add is every mother and or father is feeling that pressure. Like for my children, they're monitored 24 hours a day, right? Not fully, sometimes also when they are sleeping, in a room, they're looking into it. But the thing is, that's a lot of pressure and emotional stress that's causing, it's also for me every time when I'm calling them, you can feel it. So and since then I never had really the opportunity to tell them why they are there or what happened or why they are not allowed to see their mother, which is somehow, every mother is explaining something to their children, or also, from my opinion, they don't see them equally, really. If you see someone equally, you would explain it, and you would share why they are there. Everyone who is imprisoned at least know why he is imprisoned, right, or what is going on. So but also, mostly a lot are in fear that they are breaking up, the contact with you, what they do, because that's how they threaten and blackmail you, right, if you don't behave the way you did. But 2 days ago I got that divine that intention to speak the truth. But also, I was very in alignment with the letter you have, or with the notice for all the children, to say that they want to stay with the parents, that contract, and also don't want to take away from at home, and also don't want to stay in that crisis intervention center. So what I already know back then, that they don't want to stay there, and that they want to go home. That's they have often said that, and you know what did I want to say? Just give me a second. The thing is, they didn't brought it up in the psychological clinical study, that the children want to go home, that the children don't want to stay there. But also what they wrote inside was that Aurora said that that is a hotel for children, right? Just to that everything looks good for them. But they don't say that I brought a lot of things into the clinical into the children's center. So yesterday when I met the children the second time, um, I went there, and that time there was the leader of the department, I guess, there from that agency, who is um, arranging the meetings for the parents, in supervision, right? And when we get there, I already felt that heavy, negative, and threatening energy, right? So we were just playing, and I had the witness with me there again. And then I was talking with the children, and I asked them again, and I asked them if um if they want to stay with me, as they used to, and they said yes. And I said, uh, you don't want to stay in the center, right? And they said yes. And I said, and I had to put everything together. I don't know, and I wanted to ask them again, if they would sign it, but I felt, that fear and that suppression, that heavy energy.
So, if I may, yeah, just
Yes.
for a little bit more clarity. So, what we put out in a post the other day, what I suggested is for any of the parents to make a written contract. There is always the verbal, but the abstract contract between a mother and a child. that is always there, or a father and a child, if you will. But in this case, uh, what Sister Nya took in to see the children yesterday, she asked Aurora and she read it. It's in simple terms for a child, where does the child want to be with mom and at home, if you will, more or less. I forget how it read, but very simple. And once this contract, Aurora signed it. Once this contract is signed, it is a binding contract, which also means that the institution or any government cannot come in to this binding contract. So we are getting into also contract law here, which is being violated. Your strongest contract that you can make is with yourself. It is the most binding. The second most binding contract in the world is between two parties, but with a mother and their child, I will say, is the most binding. It has been accepted worldwide for the most part, but when you bring it into written form, it becomes more of a legal binding document. And when anyone violates this, are not welcome in to this, if they violate it, which has been done, there are some other legal consequences and repercussions that will occur as a result that I will not get into right now. So this was so important. Sister Nya was saying that her daughter Aurora signed it, and then what occurred?
Yes, the thing is, she already stepped up and she said, you can't do that. And I said, I can do that. And I just said to Aurora, I'm just
That was the
writing down.
supervisor. Excuse me, it was the
Yes,
supervisor stepped up. The head supervisor said you cannot do that. Is that
yes,
was the head supervisor? Yeah.
yes, because, to get a little bit back, they told me they can supervise the meetings. If I agree or not, I never signed anything, right? They said I shouldn't talk, about that, what they are talking here, what we are talking here, meaning like that they have unlawful and against human rights taking my children as so I didn't I think I didn't agree anything. I didn't but I signed that I was there, I guess. But the thing is, she then again said, we don't talk about this here. And I said, I just talked about with the children now, and I just want them to sign it. And, Aurora was not in fear and she just signed it. And then I asked Akua, would you sign it? And then she jumped up and she did something. And Akua just,
Jumped up.
collapsed.
Who jumped up?
The supervisor.
She jumped up just
Yes,
when you asked Akua to sign it.
yes, because Aurora has signed it already and she was not in fear. And I don't know when she jumped up because she was sitting on the floor because it's a small room. But then she jumped up and I feel she looked at Akua and he just collapsed. And he sit on the floor
Wow.
and he was in fear. And I looked at her and she had that kind of very frightening look. And I said to her, you intimidated him, right? And I don't I'm not really quite sure, but I think, she said like, it's because of you doing this right now. And I said, you have frightened him because of your aggressive way. And she said, it's your fault because you putting your child into that situation. I said, no, everything was fine. And then what happened was, I just didn't got into her because she also said something, I have to give her the sheets and I have to hand it out to her. And I said, no, it's mine. You can't take that. And, I just, and then I just took Akua and he was completely in shocked. He had something in his hand, a toy, and he was nervously, as a child, if someone cannot regulate and, is in shock, you tend to do something, and he was doing something with that thing. And I said, are you in fear? And he said, and he just not, he was not speaking anymore. And I just picked it up and has said,
What I need to, I
yes.
just need to add something. So immediately when she got aggressive towards Akua, for him to be affected for that immediately, to be afraid of her, that means something occurred earlier to make him be afraid of her and to listen to her. So, where he got very frightened, where she instantly got aggressive, this is indicative of abuse, perhaps there earlier in the child care center to make them obey again. So, we're actually also looking at how extensive this abuse can be for them to control the children. But what did Akua say? Go ahead.
He, at that point, he didn't said much. I put him, onto my lap and I sit on the chair, and I was just, doing this, with his back. I don't know the English word right now. And I was just hugging him and holding him and telling him everything is fine. Mommy is here, you don't need to be afraid, when mommy is here, whatever it is. And I said to him, take your time, oh, I just forgot, before I did this, I was sitting on the floor, and, I just calmly talked with him, what is happening? Are you in fear? Does this ever happen to you? And he said no. And I asked him, is she frightened for you? Is she scary? And he said yes. And I was talking very silently, because in that state you cannot yell, because in that frightened state. And then the supervisor was like, I can't hear you, Miss Tran. You have to speak louder because you can't whisper. And I said, yes, I asked him if he's in fear about you and if you are scary. And he said, yes. And, she came to me, and she said, because before she said
And
that she,
you've got this all recorded. You've got it all recorded as well.
yes, because before she said that she was like, oh, I don't want to disturb your intimidation, or something like that. But the thing is, he was in fear and I was holding him. But also, she came to my to where I at, to look, what I'm doing, if I'm whispering or speaking something in his ear or what have you. It was an intense situation for him, and it got more intense through this situation. And I was just, and you felt him, the tension, and everything, the whole situation. So because of this, I sit on this chair and I just said to him, just let go, take your time. Mommy is here. Don't care about anything, I can't recall what I said, but it was something like this, and at some specific point he just dropped that toy, meaning like he could just let go. And I hold him, and I hugged him, and then I started to say to both of them, and I said, you know what, that you are in the children's center and you are taken, I never agreed to it. I'm asking them every day to give you back, just to let you know. And she again was saying, Frau Tran, you cannot say this. And I said, why not? The children are away from me for weeks and no one of you is telling them the truth. And I said, that's not correct. And I also told her that I'm having the free right of speak, and you cannot control this. And furthermore, but because of the situation got very intense, for both of the children, I didn't want to make more intense for them. I just stopped, but also, she said something, if you don't stop, we have to stop that visiting time right away. So she was threatening and blackmailing me again, and I had to watch and look, what the children want. But also, I also said to Akua, to make him more comfortable, I said to him, well, I know it is very tough. The whole situation is tough for you. And then again, the next supervisor was saying, don't go into this, and I was like, wow, it it's literally it's a lot, you know. But the thing is, by me doing this, I could open up for him, you know, to just let go for a moment. I'm sorry. And you know, then again, I felt that he was opening up, and he looked at me, you know, after one, he said, you know, now I'm okay, we can play again. And we just then played, you know, and I just made, you know, we just finished that, you know, in a good way. And I looked at him and I said, is everything fine? And he said yes. And in the end, you know, both were hugging me, and I said to them, I love you both so much. And he started to open up and hug me very deeply, you know, because he saw I'm stepping up for him. Because the whole time, you know, they never saw, or you know, they rarely saw me stepping up, and they used to see me stepping up because of that whole pressure and tension, you know, and that manipulation, that indoctrination, that separation, that psychological attacks and everything, you know. It's just
It's torture.
beyond.
It's absolute torture. It's insane. It's inhumane. Indeed, it's if you will, I wish for you to, if you will, bring up the second video where just before this whole event transpired when you met the children. But again, yes, it's psychological torture and everything that that covers. And I wish to later on here, I'm going to read what psychological torture is and give
Sorry.
some more information. But no, fine. Bring bring this up because people again worldwide publicly, you need to see this love that they're trying to rip the children away from Yah, trying to conform her. And this is one of the most sickest, unacceptable things to do to try and attempt to do this. There is no justification whatsoever. And what we need is all of you moms and dads worldwide that watch this to step up and come together. These psychological experiments and psychological torture has to stop. And we have to name publicly all of those involved so that the world knows who they are. This is the only way for justice. You cannot keep within their legal systems trying to get justice when it's not designed to do this. These are very serious, inhumane things what are occurring. Can you share this with us, sister? Thank you.
What I just want to add is, you know, I often discuss things with my children because for sure, you know, you have to discuss the visiting time or if someone is coming up, but that's normal, you know. But the thing is, I think the ex have brought it up, you know, in the case and saying, you know, the mother is sharing everything with the court with them. So also, you know, one kind of reason, you know, but you know, honestly, you would never give a child to someone who is sexual abusing them and don't telling them, you know. The thing is also, you know, with everything the father did, you know, meaning like, you know, also that coercing penalty, you know, separating I from the children, you know, also with violence and doing that whole thing, you know, and you know, that's his real face. But also, you know, with everything they do, that's their real face. And what they try to do is to block you from speaking the truth that the children still trust them. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy because they are the bad one who causes stress and harming everyone. And at the same point, they don't allow you to speak. And when you speak, they said you are uncooperative, you making problems, right? And you are the bad one. So I just want to bring that up because that's also the point, you know, in this. So I'm showing the second video from yesterday where I met them.
Barbara, wie geht's? Gut. Das freut mich. Schöne Grüße soll ich dir ausrichten. Von Tommy, von Jan.
Also, what I want to add here is normally back then it was usually that both of the children are running to I, and fighting who I'm hugging first. But that is something that I also experienced. What you can also see with the first video. I want to hug both of them, but she just wait patiently, stepping back.
Aurora, yes, the Kua when he hugged you, I could see he hugged you so close and so strong, so beautiful. But Aurora, what we said about before, what I'm observing is she's becoming more reticent and being a place of stability, but also distant because of what's occurring. Because again, part of the psychological programming is causing uncertainty into her and is suppressing her. And again, all of this is intentional, as we can see, because there is no other reasonable explanation why they would continue to cause this amount of stress. Any reasonable being would not do this. Any professional that was actually in healthcare and all of this. No, it shows there is an underlying intent.
Yes, normally, you know, you would support the mother for whatever it is, to get better, because the most important bond is the bond between mother and child, and not putting harm or stress onto them and then separating them and taking the child. So, that's, I had several ones I'm talking with. They run into a situation, like with Nikki, they were overwhelmed because they came out of an abusive relationship, and they needed help. They needed to start new over. They knew that they didn't have the energy and power, to take care of the child. So they asked the child welfare if they could take care of the child. But then what happened is they're not returning the child. And when they ask about the children, they don't return it, they came out at the abusive relationship. They are overwhelmed, and they felt, they got crazy, because they don't get the children, or not crazy. It's much more, in a defense mode, right? But then what then happened is they take that mother and put her into a mental illness institution. I'm sorry, I don't know the English word.
No, that's correct. Yeah, yeah. And this
Yes.
is what they're creating. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I also want to share with this is that the witness who was with me there, she said, like, um wow, you can clearly see how they are right now, because they are always looking at the supervisor. They, Akua, sorry, it makes me cry again, because he's always having his small backpack with him, and every time if he puts something out, he pack it up, again, in order he have to leave or to go, and also, they are used to having specific kind of time somewhere, right? So they are somehow so dependent and so obeying, the supervisor, meaning, like, if they say, it's time, they just pack things and they go, So, and she also mentioned this and saw this, but also saying, that the children are very, very strong as well. But also, what you also can see, that they, the supervisor of that place was sitting, in in front of the door, fearing, that I would run away with the children or what have you, blocking the door. But also Aurora mentioned, yesterday when we met, she said, oh, that's weird, you know, other children with 7 years age is allowed to go to school alone, but I'm not. And I remember, you know, at the beginning, when they took away the children, you know, I asked the supervisor of the children care center if Aurora is going to school alone, if she's guided, you know, because she was never in a city, right? And she was, you know, with all the cars and everything, and I didn't know, you know, I just care about her. And she was, you know, the supervisor back then, she was like, oh, that's weird that you're asking those things, you know. So I am having the opinion that they thinking, you know, I will kidnap, you know, it's not kidnapping. I'm not kidnapping. They have kidnapped the children, right? That I would take the children, you know. So something like that. But also Aurora have mentioned that if she is cleaning her room, she's getting money, you know, like a pocket money or something. I don't know if that is the right term in English. But the thing is, you know, I never teached her that way, you know. It's yeah, you have, I think you have mentioned it at the beginning, right? I guess.
Yeah, that has deeper implications as
Yes.
well, with the programming in the conformity, again, to a beast society, to work, have to work for money, but also to be rewarded. It's part, when this occurs, it's part of a parent, parent conditioning. And when they do this, is try to give rewards for good things, but repercussions for bad things as well. But it's yeah, again, it's taking away the child's identity too, of what they are, their freedom, and what they can be, and conforming them to be a robot for a sadistic society that fits their frame of consciousness. What I will say is that uh, it's too much intention that I see here, that it, again, it's not ignorance. This is deliberate what is occurring. Um, so with that, can I perhaps, if we finish most of that, can we have a look at what psychological torture is?
Oh,
Can I bring
can
that
I
up?
just add one thing,
Yes.
which is very interesting is, which can also then add it. It's at the beginning they had to make an addiction workshop because of addiction with devices, and television and everything, and they were not allowed to watch anything. And since a couple of weeks, they are watching movies again, meaning like I often call, you know, at specific times, so they know the times. But nowadays, you know, they are often watching movies, and when they are watching things, you know, they are mostly not interested to talk, you know. I'm just bringing that up, you know, because I don't feel that is a coincidence, you know, how they orchestrate, you know, some things and events, you know, also to break more of the mother bound and the
Yeah,
connection.
thank you. This is important because it also goes along with the psychological conditioning. What they had with their phones, was their association with their frame of consciousness and their way of learning and building their own identity. So, with this, in a form of a psychological experiment, they will take those influences away, which in this case was good because the children were learning, and it was supervised to the extent by you to ensure it was kept in that good way and in the children's favoring. But with this, during the conditioning and psychological processing and experimenting, when they begin this, their first course of action is to take all influences away from the children. And that takes a period usually of several days to do this. So then the children will come into a state of numbness in the consciousness, if you will. And typically, then after that, and once so much of their other direct verbal indoctrination has occurred, then what they will begin to do is to introduce them to the subliminal energetics through TVs and monitoring devices, that energetically there is a programming and brainwashing and conditioning that comes through those. It piggybacks onto the TV screens, if you will. And this, you can find this research, you can find it yourself, that it's part of psychological programming and conditioning again. So this is totally, again, indicative of what's occurring there, to disassociate the children with their past identity, to conform them to a more controlled identity, and to change their association with things. So it's all part of the psychological programming again, and it's very sick that in this day and age that it's still existing and prevalent worldwide. So can I share my screen and just give the definition of psychological torture? You have a look here. Share. All right, I believe it's that one. Great. Is it up on the screen, Sister
Yes.
Nya? All right, so let's have a look at this. I'm going to read this off, and at any time I'll stop in case you wish to make an association with what is occurring. You interrupt. So here's psychological torture, and this is the United Nations Convention Against Torture, and Austria signed this in 1987, meaning that they are one of the states that support this. And I need to say here as well, when one state like Austria does not support what is in here, this means universal jurisdiction is granted by the rest of the other states that have also ratified this United Nations Convention Against Torture. So what this does in this case where we are at right now, if there is not immediate, it doesn't matter at this point if there is immediate remedy of putting the children back in Nya's custody, or if they continue with their illegal process of doing this, it does not matter, because this has been seriously contravened by the Republic of Austria, the country of Austria, and it now becomes the onus of all of the others that have ratified this to uphold that this psychological torture does not occur. So this is where the universal jurisdiction comes in, that other nations are obligated to stand and step up, especially in this case, as well as all other cases. At this point, it's very good reason to believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is psychological torture, but also human experimentation, what is going on here, which is also totally illegal. So, without going too far with this, I will read what we have here. So, here is the definition of it: psychological torture. The convention gave for the first time in history a definition of what psychological torture is. So this definition is put and made clear into the United Nations Convention Against Torture, of which Austria and I believe 156 other countries have endorsed as well to some degree. So here's what it states. It says torture is any act by which severe pain or suffering whether physical or mental, is intentionally inflicted on a person for such purposes as obtaining from him or a third person information or a confession, punishing him for an act he or a third person has committed or is suspected of having committed, or intimidating or coercing him or a third person, or for any reason based on discrimination of any kind. And I'll add in there biased and being prejudiced, which is two common denominators in this case. That is in there in the discrimination of any kind. When such pain or suffering is inflicted by or at the instigation of or with the consent or acquiescence of a public official or other person acting in an official capacity. So, what I just read there in the definition is what you are seeing is these are acting illegally, and they are violating the United Nations Convention against torture that they agreed to, the Republic of Austria. So further in this, it says subordinates who commit acts of torture cannot abstain themselves from legal responsibility on the grounds that they were just following orders from their superiors. This is very important because this is why we say the child care center workers, they have been informed they were acting that the children were there unlawful. So they were given the opportunity, all of the workers at the child care centers, to know that there was an unlawful operation going on here. So what this also means is that each one of them individually, because they've been informed, can be held accountable now to whatever degree that is. But number 6, what I'm reading, and I'll read it again, subordinates who commit acts of torture cannot abstain themselves from legal responsibility on the grounds that they were just following orders from superiors. So what this does, it individually places everyone into a place of accountability. I'll read the last part that I have, and these are only excerpts that I took out of the United Nations Convention Against Torture, and I strongly suggest for everyone watching this to do the research online and read the entire document and look at the countries that have endorsed and ratified this. Now I'll read this next. The prohibition on torture applies to anywhere under a party's effective jurisdiction inside or outside of its borders, whether on board its ships or aircraft or in its military occupations, military bases, peacekeeping operations, health care industries, schools, daycare centers, detention centers, embassies, or any other of its areas, and protects all people under its effective control, regardless of nationality or how that control is exercised. So, this last sentence that I just read, the school teachers in this case also could be very seriously accountable for participating in this torture. And I'll use an example with the kindergarten teacher and the other teachers allowing the psychological one to come to the school but also the father, I believe, without Nya knowing it, putting an increasing stress on the children that unbeknownst to Nya was occurring with the children coming home stressed and without them fully saying what had occurred. So it's very important if any of you that are involved in this, school teachers, daycare employees, or what have you, that are watching this, this is a very serious implication what you could be involved in. And for anyone that is involved in any of this, again, we have said before, you have the whistleblower protection, but your best protection is to come public on this with all of us. That is your best protection. Thank you.
Oh, there's another point with the discrimination of belief, because they
Yeah.
also have discriminated me because that I'm believing, in the ascension. Is that, could you also put that into the discrimination point?
Oh, absolutely. It is discrimination when they're saying that you believe you're going to a better world. The majority of the people on earth believe this. They believe in heaven and afterlife or what have you, where everything is good. But also, it's happening now that we're bringing it physically here, this great new world, and it's being done through divine GTMS.world, where we're ratifying this beautiful new world into actual law for everyone to enjoy. So this is not a what we're saying with this is not, I'm just thinking about a funny meme that just come into my mind what I saw yesterday. They were speaking about what's his name, Jones, when they drank the Kool-Aid. It was a funny meme how they had it. Um, that happened, I believe, in Texas. But what they did is they compared um, Fauci, if you will, to him. Uh, with it was very interesting how it was, but the discrimination, yes, you have the freedom of belief. It's written also in the Constitution of Austria, your freedom of beliefs, and it's also in their legal system. They are very serious that it is illegal for anyone and it is criminal to discriminate against anyone and their beliefs. So, again, what you see is this huge discrimination that is occurring, but it's beyond discrimination with the children in the child care center, where they're actually attempting to change their beliefs and impose another belief upon them. But they're also, in this case and with the judge involved, they are using the discrimination, ridiculing Nya's and her children's belief to make it look like it's a cult, or that if it's that if it's not real. But again, what we're saying with this, everyone that believes in God believes in an afterlife or heaven uh, of some form. So the point again, just being made with this, is that it's absolutely absurd, but for all involved to continue these criminal actions of discrimination, it shows they are very desperate and that there is an underlying intent to control Nya and to also keep the children separated from her. And it's because of this, it is uh, indicative of a much deeper conspiracy, which is also connected to the money trail. We have established enough to my satisfaction to know there's an actual business with this. So it's not actually about caring for children, it's about the money and the separation, but also much deeper acts that are also associated with this, as many of you could see indications worldwide of criminal trafficking rings, child pedophilia, and what have you being exposed. Getting back to Sister Nya with Aurora, her daughter, it is still not clear where her daughter got this huge bruise, although her daughter said she got it riding a bike. What I wish to say, it's possible that if the supervisor that got aggressive at Akua, it's possible this accident could have occurred in the child center. So for it might not have. It might be as what Aurora is saying, that while she was with her father, what she calls her father, she had hurt her leg on the bike. But again, it's surrounding this also is something, there's something deeper with this. So, Sister, yeah, I'll stop sharing the screen about the psychological torture.
Yes, I can
You
also
wish,
show a picture of the bruise because I just have it
please.
here.
Yeah.
So it's not so sharp because it focused my socks, but you know, you can see here the bruise, and there's something similar to a cut as well.
And is that on her knee? Where is that? On her knee
That's yeah,
or
that's
shin?
on the back on her I think it's called underleg, right?
Oh, is it on her back of her leg, her calf?
It's on the back of her um I have to look it up. Excuse me, I don't know
The
the English.
bottom part of her leg, the calf. It's
Yes, I think it's the calf, yes.
Oh, it's on the. How would she? All right, so she was driving a bike going forward, she said, when she ran into a bus. So if she was going forward, I thought it should have been on her knee, on the front of her leg. So what is
Yes,
this doing on the back?
yes, but also, you know, if she's driving into the car, she must have something, you know, in front of her, not on the back. That's true. You know, I thought maybe it is the pedal, you know, of the bike or something, but you know, you wouldn't have that cut there.
Look at that cut and look at this bruise. It's to get a big blood bruise like that. That was a huge blunt force trauma. And why did she not know about it until 2 days later, she said to you? This is suspicious.
She said on the first day when that happened, she had a thick trouser on, a pant on, and she didn't saw anything or she didn't felt anything. But that doesn't make any sense. You know, something like that would appear, you know, and at the first time and not later on.
Yeah, this is looking very suspicious. It's quite possible. And, this could possibly explain her behavior of not saying much as well, because if she is in fear, if this abuse actually occurred at the institution, it could be covered up. It's on the back of her leg. So without us, this is speculation because we have not confirmed, any of what I'm saying. But it's not been confirmed to my knowledge where this occurred, where she actually got the bruise and what happened with this cut, but also why she said, I think it was a couple days later, that she did not even know she had it. So there's something not fully making sense with this.
Yes, the thing is, she is also sometimes switching things, what she's saying, but also, um, yeah, I honestly, I don't know. The first time when she got into that center, she also got a bruise on her leg somewhere. I don't know where, but she also mentioned she don't know where she got it from, right?
So that was twice. Yes. Yes. Now you could say psychologically, that they would not feel any pain. But, the first time was a slight bruise, which is possible. But this time you see a cut with a bruise. And even though psychologically we could look at this, that she has shut off the pain because she is in stress, or we also could look at it that she was physically abused and whoever did it, she's afraid of, so she would make up another story. And if she would make up a story, that's why perhaps this is not making sense. If she was driving a bike forward in this huge cut, I know if I was a child that I would have known when it happened. So this is not making full sense with I. So right at this time, this is very suspicious, and I believe it should be investigated further to see where this actually occurred.
Yes, I have wrote and asked them, about that bruise, also the bruise at the beginning, and also about them taking blood from my daughter without my consent. And they always say, I don't have, it's because the child welfare have custody now. But the thing is, there's no court order that they ever have custody as well.
Yeah, they don't have custody.
Yes,
It's kidnapping. It's
yes,
illegal
exactly.
and unlawful.
But
So they
also,
don't.
I asked them because normally what the child welfare do, if someone has a little bruise or something, they start to investigate and asking around if that is, someone who has abused her or something. And then I wrote them an email to do this. I want to have a report. I didn't get anything afterwards. Nothing, no report, no nothing about it. It's just, yeah. But the thing is, because I send it to all again, it's in my case again, right? I have a question about the thing you brought up with the torture. Um, when was this? You said it was published. How old is this, or when was it first brought together? In that kind of, because I know about it, but not in that constellation. So I'm just asking, when did that came out?
This came out before. So again, when Austria adopted it was 1987.
87. Okay.
1987.
Okay. All right.
So and it is the United Nations Convention on Torture, against torture. Yeah, but we also have other groups. I just looked again at Amnesty, um, because also they are fight now. What I need to say to the people is that yes, in the past with the UN, the United Nations, and the Declaration of Human Rights, and let's say with Amnesty International, there was purposely bad press put out there intentionally. And what I need to say, within these organizations, there are good people. The bad press was put out by the darkness to keep ones from the unity, with also consulting these ones. Um, Without going too far into that, I will also say the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, and also international law and the Convention of Human Rights, which involves the UN, uh, need to be not only in this case, they need to be involved in all cases with the mothers and dads as well, to bring this to more worldwide light and attention, but also to activate the universal jurisdiction, which is other countries have to step in here in in every country, including Germany and all countries, that it is the moral and lawful obligation of all countries to step in here now to stop all of this psychological torture that is occurring in these child institutions. So the onus is now on these bigger humanitarian or human rights laws to be enforced now. Enough is enough. So you're being given the chance to, we're calling your bluff. If you are genuine and doing the things you are say you're doing, and if you actually have the enforcement that you say you have, it's time to do it now. You
So
still there,
interesting. I
sister?
think
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Interesting. That's the thing that because there's worldwide, the thing is the media is suppressed, right? It was controlled, we would say, in the past. So a lot of those things are not coming, to the outside, but they are doing it, but right now, yes, everything is coming to the surface. Everything is made public. Nothing is hidden anymore. But also what I'm observing since a while, that there are more cases ending positive for some reason, but also that also in America, I just saw something that they have removed the administrative shielding, for those judges. So what you can now do is, that's also, something they have done in Austria, meaning like if they do done something wrong, you just step back or what have you. But the thing is, if America puts that law into, you know, normally, you can apply it also, with others, because of the order of the law as well. So I was just thinking about this, but I don't know much about it. But I'm just bringing that up because it just came into my field, as a thought.
Well,
If you may
yes, yes.
collaborate on
So,
this.
yeah, we're seeing the progression towards that. In this great time, no one can hide, including judges. So what you are seeing and what you will see is that there will be accountability. Some of the roles in the countries, and I'll use the US, is where in Canada, the judges were paid money behind the scenes. And so they are also were and are also involved in some of these, or if not a lot of these cases where the judge's decision is compromised and influenced because of their interest that they have, which is an actual conflict of interest of justice itself. And because of this monetary incentivization, the judges, if they agree to this, they will begin to make biased judgments to get the children. What I'm saying is that the judges, as we know, whichever ones they may be, are involved in this huge child trafficking and this profitable business. So, in this great time, by going public worldwide, when names are mentioned of judges, the individual workers, and what have you that are involved, what this does is the public is informed of these ones, and this must stop, and then justice is served. But justice has to be served from the highest levels. International law, if you will, is not yet the highest level. When we come from absolute law, when the people have the full power, this is the absolute law. But also, having said this, um, with the people I kind of lost what I was going to say there, and I guess I'm just going too far ahead too quick. So, what I need to say is that international law has to be appreciated, and there has to be nations or governments stepping forward to ensure that it is. When the brutal beating in Australia began of elderly ladies, pregnant women, and what have you, when the COVID pandemic started, the police brutality at beating them and dragging them and what have you, because they just didn't wear a mask. At that time, other countries worldwide should have stepped up and said something about that brutality and not accept it. But what occurred is all governments worldwide did not say anything. They condoned that type of behavior and let that tyrannical behavior go. Um, Not unnoticed. It was noticed by a lot, but it also created a jeopardy, um, not only with that one thing for all countries worldwide. And this is why I say when you look at the actions of the past, like 4 or 5 years ago, with that uh, police brutality, but not only in Australia, when you saw no other nation stepping up and saying this is wrong, and these nations supposedly a part of international law, who was actually there to enforce law. At this point, when that occurs, that is tyranny. And what it does automatically, it puts the onus on the people themselves as the last resort to restore or to implement justice. So it's every citizen's, every individual's obligation to know your moral duty to this world and to humanity, and to unite and say enough is enough. And that's what is occurring and what has begun here now. This is what frees all of your children worldwide, and it stops this foolish insanity and psychological torturing and human experimentation. It has to stop. This is just a cold, what is occurring with this is a cold war of what happened with Nazi Germany. Nothing has changed. It's the same sick thing, and it has to change now. And it's the responsibility of everyone that is watching this to stand up, speak out public, unite, so that we end this once and for all, and you get all of your children back by you trying to individually fight a system that is designed to disempower you, burden you, and put you into psychological distress. You cannot do it alone. It has to be the worldwide unity to do this.
Well said.
Thank you, sister. Do you have anything to add? Did we get through most of this
I
with your
think we get
update?
through the most of it. Yes.
Hmm, yeah.
So
All right. So
thank you
that's
so
great.
much for watching, and everyone who wants to step up or also to have more information or just to connect with us in that matter, please reach out. And I'm also here. Yeah, just reach out. I'm today. I cannot speak so much today, so but I'm very grateful for everyone who is watching this and also for sharing this video or also information. Just educate yourself and stand firm. Keep your trust and your faith, and so much love, light, and gratitude for everyone, and also for Brother Rick for always doing this effortless work and stepping up. And yes, it's very extensive, and he's very well known in all areas. Also, if he doesn't look like in his disguise.
Smoking cigarettes.
Yes,
Sister
thank you so
Lisa,
much.
you're welcome. I saw on Facebook one question from Sister Lisa McQueenie just asked about lawyer update or what have you. Just to quickly say, we've mentioned before, if the lawyers are part of the legal system, they're very afraid to speak up because then they get what's the word? They get ejected from the bar association of the country, and their whole career in the past um, would become ruined. They would no longer have a license. So what we are doing with this, we need some of the lawyers that have already stepped out from the control from the legal system, but we also need international lawyers that are with the rule of law and that does morally know what's wrong or right, and we can have just such a much greater effect. Do we actually need the lawyers? Uh, no, I don't feel we do because we have many educated ones and we're further educating more. So if these lawyers are in fear, they will not step forward, and that does not resolve anything. We need ones to muster up your courage, speak freely, speak openly, publicly, and get united. And through this way, by doing the higher divine law ways, the strategy, what we are doing is also enforced by God. It's backed by God as well, meaning that, thanks,
Wow.
Dad. Yeah, so Dad, Father God just chimed in there. So in the blink of an eye, if you will, we can change this very quickly. Oh, there's another blink. I think it's Mother God turning the light off and on, but impeccable timing. So beautiful. Uh, so with this, yes, it's getting cool here. So love, light, and gratitude, everyone. And I'll end the uh, live streaming. Oh, just before I go, we want even survivors children that have come out of these institutions. We want you to come forward to give testimony with your experience of what was actually going on, especially in Austria. We need this and we require it now for all moms and dads in Austria to step up, connect with us, and we also want any children that that are willing to speak as well. We want them to speak so we can prove more of what we're showing. So with that, I'm going to shut down the Facebook. Thank you, and we'll stop recording. You got that done, which is great, but I might have to stop